Hi, good morning, and welcome to Funky Rainbow this Saturday morning. It's a very, very special bazaar for all of us at Team Funky Rainbow. It's a bazaar that celebrates those wonderful people that make our lives so precious, so special. Our grandparents, our grandma and grandpa, and referred to by so many different names in the Indian context. There's Ajja, Ajji, Tata, Party, Nana, Nani, Dada, Dadi. It's just lovely how many names we have for our grandparents in the Indian context. The thing is that we were thinking up themes for our subsequent bazaars, and we noticed that it was National Grandparents Day perhaps tomorrow, as well as International Grandparents Day. Days or not, we just believe that grandparents deserve to be celebrated, because that special relationship that exists between grandparents and grandchildren, there are it's just such a magical feeling. It's just such a precious bond that definitely deserves to be celebrated. I know many of you, here and watching us live are grandparents yourselves, and many parents watching too, who probably, have their children meet grandparents ever so often. That is such a special bond and relationship, and it certainly deserves to be celebrated. Fortunately, tons of books celebrating grandparents as always, and we have so many wonderful, happy, jolly, not so jolly ones to showcase and share with you this morning. I will start always with remembering my own grandparents, both sets of grandparents, not here anymore, but the precious, wonderful things that they brought into my life, which I remember even to this day. Two interests, books and badminton. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was an avid reader, and was single-handedly responsible for introducing me and a lot of my siblings and cousins to this wonderful bookstore in Bangalore called Premier Bookshop, and the wonderful Mr. Shanbag there. And somehow and somewhere, I think that influence has remained in my life. Those precious, splendid days spent at Blossom and in the company of Mr. Shanbag, and with my grandfather's love and wallet always next to me. It was, such a pleasurable experience being at, Blossom. At Mr. Shanbag's bookshop, almost 2-3 times every month. And somehow we feel, that's the kind of feeling that we would like for somebody to take forward with Funky Rainbow. Maybe children growing up with Funky Rainbow will fondly remember us. We all keep fingers crossed that way. And my paternal grandmother was a lovely, a very happy badminton player. And, the thing is, in her rustling silks, she will come to the playground and play badminton with us. It's a game I love to play even now. And it's remarkable how, those special memories, that go back over 20 years ago, still form such an important and a valuable, core for me to draw on, at every single stage of my life. I'm sure many, many of you have wonderful grandparents' memories to share. Please do write in, please do tell us, please do, share some precious things that you've all done with your grandparents, never mind, what your age is. And we'd be happy to, call them out every now and then, or perhaps share them up on the screen for other viewers to watch. So with this, we begin with our recommendations, for the Grandma Grandpa Bazaar. As always, the books are up on our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Please go to the tag that says Buzzaar now. We've made some modifications on our website, and please go to the tag that says Buzzaar, click it. You will find a tag that says Grandma, Grandpa, all the books that we are listing in that bazaar. One second. Yeah, I mean, just click the tag that says grandma, grandpa, and all the books that we're featuring in the bazaar today are up there at discounted prices. So I'll start off with the first recommendation. It's one of our oldest books, written by Shankar. This wonderful book, Life with Grandfather. Shankar was the founder, K. Shankar Pillai was the founder of Children's Book Trust and one of the pioneering people to set the ball rolling in the space of Indian children's publishing. Now, this charming book, which he's both written and illustrated, is such a, I felt we should start with this book because it is recounted from it's a child called Raja who's talking about his experiences with his grandfather. And Raja is only his pet name. I mean, he's the Raja of this family, really. Everybody, his grandmother, his grandfather, his parents, they all dote on him. And Raja is a naughty little boy. Now, the thing is, what is just wonderful and perhaps reflective of many, many grandparents' relationships with their grandchildren is that his grandfather is, always trying to be strict and trying to ensure that he doesn't get up to too much mischief. But there is not a single word of rebuke that can come out of his mouth. His love for Raja just shines through in everything that they do together. It's beautifully set in Kerala, and there are a clutch of stories, around a snake bite, around rains, around, prayers in the family, and so many wonderful things that Raja and his grandparents do together. Charming two-color illustrations, very old school and very old world, but somehow, inducing a chuckle every now and then. Shankar himself was a cartoonist, so he has that cartoonist eye to, bring alive some humorous situations. This one is published by CBT and priced at 55 rupees. The thing is, some of the books, again, we do our best to ensure that we have stocks and enough stocks of the books that we recommend, but that has genuinely been a problem in the times of lockdown and COVID and, difficulties in transportation. So there are some books that we have only a few copies of, but, we are working towards, and I think, across the last 2-3 bazaars, several of the books have been, made available in multiple copies. There are, some, however, that we have only few of, and this is one of those books. So Life with Grandfather, written and illustrated by Shankar. I'm going to move to my next, favorite book, which is Grandma Bubba's Warm Shawl. Such a beautiful book. I think we've recommended it in one of the bazaars earlier. This one is written and illustrated by Rijuta Ghate. It was, written originally in Marathi and, translated into English. It's a lovely story of a grandma, of Grandma Bubba, who wants to knit a red shawl for herself. But as you can see from the cover of the book, there is a very, very multicolored shawl, come bedspread that she is using. Now, what is the story about? The story is actually about how Grandma Bubba's red shawl, the red shawl that she's going to knit, becomes a multicolored shawl. Shruti, Sri Raghunath, hello, welcome to the bazaar. You say it's one of your favorites. It's definitely a favorite, and Divya Purandar, you say you've gifted it to many kids. Absolutely well worth gifting, well worth reading, well worth having grandparents and grandchildren read this book together. The thing with Grandma Bubba is that she starts off with a red ball of wool and is slowly, going to knit the shawl for herself when one grandchild comes running saying, "Oh, no, I want a muffler out of, out of this wool." So she knits a muffler for him. And then, she picks out a yellow ball of wool to, knit a shawl for herself because the red one is over. And as she starts knitting, a second grandchild comes saying, no, I need gloves for this, and so on and so forth. Till, of course, we are not going to give away the ending. There is a multicolored shawl, and a multicolored shawl that is put to delightful use by Grandma Bubba. Published by Jyotsna Prakashan, priced at a wonderful 70 rupees. This one is a very charming read, a picture book that would work for the youngest of readers. I think, you can read aloud when the child is really young. Of course, I'll show you a couple of pictures. You can read aloud when the child is quite young, but the child, herself can read it when she is probably 4, 5 years old, depending on their reading levels. Life with Grandfather, which I introduced first, is for slightly older kids. We would recommend it for 7-plus-year-olds. Our next recommendation for today is another magical story called Days with Tatu. This one is written by Geeta Dharmarajan and illustrated by Nancy Raj. What a beautiful story about Malar and her grandfather. Now, it's basically, Malar. I love the way that the story begins, and I'm going to say it begins saying, I live with my grandfather. I call him Tata. But when I love him very, very much, I call him Tatu. Okay. And what are the wonderful things? Look at the delightful toothless Tata right here with Malar. Nancy Raj's illustrations, literally, sparkling with love. Archana Natraj, you say you love this one. Absolutely worth loving as much as, we love the Tatu in this story. Now, the thing is, Tatu and Malar do many things together. For instance, Tata takes her to the cinema to see a movie. How lovely, how pleasurable. We really, miss those days now when none of us are able to really go out anywhere. This book, portrays a grandfather-grandchild bonding so beautifully. In fact, she goes to the movie. Sometimes she sits on her grandfather's lap and attempts and pretends that she's driving a car going pom, 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 and so on and so forth, showcasing a beautiful relationship. I like to say it is a great lap time story. It is a great bedtime story. In fact, it's a great anytime story, written by Geeta Dharmarajan and illustrated by Nancy Raj, priced at 120 rupees and published by Katha. Yes, Anita Venugopal, hello, welcome to the Buzzaar. And you say you love this. Impossible not to love. Impossible not to love the book. Impossible not to love Malar. Impossible not to love her Tatu. So that is, a wonderful read as well. And very much in that light is another book called Veena and the Cupboard of Curiosities. Now, this one is written by Sneha Uplekar, and, the dedication straight away says for Aji and I. Now, this one is in a different way, a relationship between a granddaughter and her grandmother, her Aji, but her Aji is somewhat strict. Veena has a holiday from school. Her father and mother are not at home. And, she's expected to finish up some schoolwork. And Aji is supervising whether she's finishing up the schoolwork or not. There's one little segment which reflects something about the relationship between Veena and Aji. This is what Veena says. Aji did not talk much. Aji did not like a mess. Aji was very serious. So what happens? How do Veena and her grandmother bond? Fortunately, children being children, never mind what grown-ups feel. Veena runs off at some point in time and decides that she is going to do nothing less than exploring Aji's cupboard. My God. Imagine neat and clean Aji and, and the grandchild absolutely exploring Aji's cupboard. And why is it a cupboard of curiosities? Divya, you say it's a fantastic book. Aji's cupboard is indeed a treasure trove. The beautiful thing about the book is, about the exploring the cupboard, is that when she starts, she discovers a box of shells. Each thing that Veena discovers in the cupboard, when she discovers this shell, she's wondering, saying that Aji must have collected this from the ocean, from near the seaside. But when did Aji go there, leaving me behind? Did Aji only collect this when, after Veena was born? So many beautiful things to explore and so many facets of Aji revealed. Does Veena, at the end of the story, still think Aji is quite strict? We're not giving away the answers. It's for you to find out. And as you can see, some gorgeous pastel shade illustrations, add so much character to the book. A beautiful one, and, a story that helps grandchildren understand sometimes that their grandparents too were children at one point in time, do other things besides being grandparents, and can still be so much fun. This one is published by Jyotsna Prakashan and priced at 75 rupees. Veena and the Cupboard of Curiosities. I'm getting to yes, the next book is a lovely, sweet little picture book for the youngest of readers. Veena and the Cupboard of Curiosities, we would recommend for 5+-year-olds to read on their own, or perhaps even 6+-year-olds to read on their own, depending on their reading levels. The thing is, if you're reading aloud, you can read younger, but the Veena and the Cupboard of Curiosities perhaps is best discovered, read on, by the child reading it on her own. Now, this one is for the youngest of readers, 3+-year-olds, about my grandfather's stick. So we know from the cover that it's grandfather's walking stick. Now, the thing is, it's written by author Nandini Nair and it's illustrated by Kshitij Sharma. The thing about this book is that this little girl discovers that, her grandfather's stick, and starts to imagine all the wonderful things that she can do with it. Now, for instance, in this page, sometimes the stick becomes a horse. I ride on it and go far, far away. And in the very next page, it becomes a pole that holds up an imaginary tent. Now, there are so many things that her grandfather's stick can become, but what is it that she likes best about her grandfather's stick? Nandini Nair, of course, has, dedicated the book to her son and his Achan, that is his grandfather. So, lovely little bilingual book. So, this is the English-Hindi version. I think we only have the English-Hindi version, isn't it? And, the text, one line of it in English and one line of it in Hindi. So a great way to introduce children to another language, or perhaps their mother tongues, while reading about a fantasy-filled story about what your grandfather's stick can become. This one is published by Tulika and, priced at 100 rupees. Our next book is an equally charming little picture book for even younger readers, 2+-year-olds, back on our shelves after a long, long time, Grandma's Eyes, which is written by the one and only Sandhya Rao, who really, is able to write the simplest of picture books with so much charm, basically, and illustrated by a very dear friend and, writer-illustrator Ashok Rajagopalan. Now, why is Grandma so special? Now, this book is all about what makes Grandma special. So to start off with, the first thing that makes Grandma special for her grandchild is Grandma's eyes. So as you can see, one line of text in English, one line of text in Hindi, and very little text. So just grandma's eyes and nani ki aankhein, and instantly the next page says grandma's eyes that watch me well. So the second page just says watch me well. But here's the magic. For each spread like this, should you lift it up quickly, one, two, one, two, one, two, like this, look what's happening to grandma's eyes. It's a lovely little flip book, and children have so much fun flipping it this way and that way. And it's true, even the youngest of readers will notice that grandma's eyes are open, grandma's eyes are closed, and you can just go up and down like this, having tons of fun. So, of course, the second thing that works very, very well for the child in this story is grandma's arms. I'm not going to flip the pages just now, but you can see what happens to grandma's arms on the next page when you flip these pages like this. Such a lovely idea. We know kids love flip books, and they keep making them, and they'll keep lifting them and going up and down like this. You can do it with a wonderful bilingual book written by Sandhya Rao and illustrated by Ashok Rajagopalan, meant for 2+year-olds, priced at 85 rupees. Moon, you're asking if it is available in Bengali. Welcome to the Buzzaar. We could check. At the moment, I think only the English-Hindi version is available. Even with the publishers, I reckon, because it's taken quite a while to come back on our shelves. And I'm not sure it's come back because it's been reprinted. Perhaps they had some copies left behind. So I recall, seeing it last week and not, finding any other language version. But we could check for you, although I think it's possibly only available in Bengali, in Hindi, English Hindi. Grandma's Eyes by Sandhya Rao and Ashok Rajgopalan, and priced at 85 rupees, published by Tulika. Radha, good morning. Happy to be part of this initiative. Radha Ganeshan, founder, managing trustee, Swabodhini School for Special Children, Chennai. Welcome so much. Welcome. We're so delighted to see you here, Radha Ganeshan. Wonderful that you are an educator for special needs children, and it's absolutely a pleasure to welcome you to the Buzzaar. A lot of books, a lot of schools, for special needs children work with us, at Funky Rainbow, trying to find books that will match their reading requirements. Muttama, one of the partners at Funky Rainbow, is a disability rights activist, and we are extremely careful and conscious about bringing in diverse books into our collection. So we are delighted that you have joined us this morning. Many of our bazaars have featured books, with special needs children, just as they feature characters, and children from everyday life. There are, special needs children too that get incorporated into it. And you should, if you are looking for books for your school library, please do be in touch. We can be reached on email at funkyrainbowmail@gmail.com, and on our number, both on WhatsApp and call at 99004-95665. Thank you so much, and a very warm welcome to you, Radha, to the Buzzaar, Funky Rainbow's Buzzaar. My next set of books is something many of you are very familiar with, Radha's Family, written by just the brilliant Madhuri Purandare, a writer who has won the Bal Sahitya Academy for writing for youngest children. This is perhaps one of those wonderful books, set of books in our collection that introduces children to the concept of family members. Now, the lovely thing about the book, at least for all of us at Funky Rainbow, is the fact that it's a collection of 6 books. There are 6 little picture books in it, introducing you to 6 different family members. And what we love is Madhuriji's quirkiness of not sort of introducing family members in pairs, not doing Amma and Abba and, Aji and Ajja, and, but just picking five, six family members, who she feels that, she wants to introduce children to. Divya, you say hi, welcome to the Buzzaar. Huge fans here of her books. Must have. We will add a couple of more musts to it, saying yes, must have. Set of six books about a little girl called Radha and her family members, who include, Nana, Aji, Kaka, Ai, Baba, cousins. Now, the two books in this collection that I wanted to focus on, I mean, and it's available as a pack of books. They're not available singly. Are, of course, two delightful grandparents. So there's Aji, who's Radha's Aji. I was showing you the Nana's book. This is Aji, and the thing with Aji is the Radha says she's very, very happy when Baba and Mine go to the theater or to the cinema, because that day she gets to sleep with Aji, and Aji tells her so many stories of her childhood. Beautiful illustrations by Madhuri ji herself. She has a excellent pastel palette which is so pleasing to the eye. Characters just like you and me can identify very, very easily, and such a charming way to introduce children to family members through stories. Now this story is about when Aji was a little girl. She was quite plump, and her parents used to call her chubby. Now, little Aji, which I just love the way, Radha refers to little Aji, basically. Little Aji had very long hair, and Aji's mother used to comb her hair and tie it into a tight plait. Then little Aji used to cry. How many of you can identify with that? I definitely can, of having my hair plaited. Muttama says 100%. We would just wait to get out of the house into the bus and pull off those plaits only to be scolded at school. But this is about, about Aji and the different stories that Radha discovers about Aji when she was young. The other book in the same box is Nana. So Nana, of course, also again a very nice way to introduce, how we call our grandparents by so many different names, because the book begins saying everyone calls Radha's Ajoba as Nana. Ajoba, what a beautiful word! But Radha calls him Sugar Nana. Why Sugar Nana? Of course, Divya Menon, no quiz there, and you got it right. Sugar Nana, he is. Because every day, Sugar Nana gives her small lumps of sugar to eat. And what does he do when he gives it to her to eat? He pops them into his mouth too. And Aji will, of course, scold him. Don't think I'm not looking, huh? And I like that. I like that huh in the book, because that's the way Indians speak, right? To say, don't think that I'm looking at it, huh? And, Sugar Nana and Radha eating sugar and, doing some wonderful things together. Like, for instance, in this one, watering the plants. Not going to give away how many more wonderful things she does with her Nana. But the lovely thing is that her Nana doesn't go to work every day. He's always at home, and he's always there for Radha as long as she wants it. So beautiful, such lovely stories, Radha's family, that introduces children to the concept of the family. And we've picked out the two ones that focus on grandparents. One more recommendation before I say a round of hellos, and this one is a dear, dear, wonderful friend's book, Dada's Useless Present, by author Nalini Sorensen and illustrated by Alan Shaw. Sorry, I forgot to give you the price of this one. It's priced at 250 rupees, Radha's family, for all 6 books, and it is a must-read for all families. We would recommend it for children as young as 2 years. Divya Menon, who's watching, her daughter is 2. And I think, she wrote in once to us saying that the very size of this book, it makes it so compact for her young daughter to hold. And that's probably something that really appeals. Kripa Madhuri Purandare's book is like eating mother's hand-fed food comfort. 100%. Such a beautiful and glorious comparison. Indeed, it is. It is like grandma's favorite food, or amma's favorite food. Wonderful collection we recommend for 2+ year olds. Archana Shivram, waiting for Murli Gopal Krishnan. He will be here at 12 noon. We are eagerly waiting for him too. I will just finish up the recommendation on Dada's Useless Present by a wonderful friend and a wonderful writer, Nalini Sorensen, and illustrated by Alan Shaw, published by Karadi Tales. Nalini has a quirky sense of humor in everything she writes, even in real life. She is incredibly funny, and that is so marvelously recreated in this book, where Dada is celebrating his 82nd birthday. And Dada, like all Dadas or all Dadis should, thinks of himself as a spry and upright man who can do everything he wants to in his life by himself. Nalini Sorensen, welcome, welcome. Timing is indeed everything. You're right here when we're talking about Dada's Useless Present. We just love your fantastic timing, And you know what? And it's that very timing that contributes to the wonderful humor of your books, Nalini. Archana Atri, love Nalini Sorensen's book. My dad loves taking his walking stick for a walk every evening. So yes, that's what it is. Welcome, Archana Atri. Dada thinks he's a spry, person who can do everything that he wants to himself. But he receives a thoughtful gift from his son, which perhaps gives him an indication of what his age is. But is Dada going to use the present for what it's really meant? You know very well what that present is, but imagine the child's pleasure in discovering what that present is, and how 82-year young Dada puts it to every other use except what it's meant for. Nalini, you're laughing, and I'm telling you, kids will be chuckling over this wonderful story about Dada's Useless Present, so charmingly illustrated in wonderful watercolors by the very talented Alan Shaw. And, a great story that says why grandparents are reluctant to give up their independence, never mind what their age is. A beautiful book to be enjoyed by many grandparents, many parents, and many children. And a big shout out to its author, Nalini Sorensen, who has, in perfect timing, joined us at the Buzzaar. And no, we didn't WhatsApp her. We didn't tell, even though we're extremely partial to her, we didn't do any of those things. And yet she landed here right in time. Methinks it was a great story that got her here. She heard the storytelling and joined us. I'm going to send out a quick round of hellos on behalf of all of us at Team Funky Rainbow for this very special Buzzaar, Grandma Grandpa Buzzaar. And I begin with a wonderful grandmother herself, author Sunila Gupte, waiting for Murli Tata. Murli Tata is going to be here in the next half hour. We are absolutely waiting for him as well. Thank you. So Sunila Gupte, lovely, to see you here. We know you're a fond grandmother. We know you buy tons and tons of books for your grandchildren. And of course, you always read them first before giving it to the grandchildren. Atta girl, we say. That's the kind of grandmother you need to be. Welcome. Joanne Saldana, conversations after conversations with you, from the Book Valley's wonderful Montessori educator, great storyteller yourself. Welcome to the Bazaar. So delighted to see you here this morning. Shruti Sri Raghunath, Nalini Sorensen says, this book is so close to my heart. It reminds me of my dad. We are so sure he was the inspiration for this beautiful story, Nalini. And what a marvelous way to remember your father. It's not just you. Generations of readers are going to remember him, even if they don't know that, he was the inspiration behind this wonderful story. Many, I mean, it's the most beautiful way to keep memories alive, and a big hug goes out to you from all of us. Hi, Shruti Sri Raghunath, a wonderful Montessori teacher who, has always taken all our recommendations and all our suggestions to so many children in her school. Such a pleasure to see you at the Grandma Grandpa Bazaar. Samir Thakkar, Anita Matthew, the Parag Trust, absolutely wonderful that you are here from the Parag Trust. Anchal, I know you are from the Parag Trust, and it's absolutely a pleasure that you have joined us here this morning at the Grandma Grandpa Bazaar. Krupa, lovely to see you at the Bazaar. Many congratulations for the wonderful book that was released yesterday on Bappa. We are waiting for those books to come into Funky Rainbow. And we know that we will do one on cities and places, from across the country. You can be sure that the Bappa book will be featured there. Hearty congratulations to Vinita and you for creating such wonderful books that introduce us to our own beautiful cities and the different things that we celebrate about these cities. Many congratulations to you, Kripa. Divya Purandar, we do know that your children read with their grandparents. In fact, during COVID, I think your son was locked down with his grandmother, away from all of you. And I think grandma and grandchild must have spent many pleasurable hours together. Thank you so much for supporting us at every turn across the years. And thank you so much for being at the Bazaar. Vinod Kumar, what a pleasure to see you here this morning. Archana Atri, big hug goes out to you. We know how close you are to your mum, which means how close your girls are to their grandmother, and it's such a beautiful bond. I'm sure many of these books you have used with your children when they were much younger, and built wonderful bonds between your girls and their grandparents. Welcome to the Bazaar. Shruti Shetty, such a pleasure to see you. A big hello goes out to you from the Money family, physiotherapist, and I'm so delighted, a new mother, and I hope there are some wonderful books that you discover at the Bazaar, which you can read with your precious little new boy. Many congratulations, you've been able to join us at the Bazaar. Ramendra Kumar, hello, welcome. Yes.
He said that he read Life with Grandfather. He and his wife read it to their son more than 50 times.
Lovely, Ramendra Kumar. Welcome to the Bazaar, and hopefully to the city of Bangalore very soon. I believe you have read Life with Grandfather over 50 times to your children. How wonderful. What a great way to create bonds between between children and grandparents, and between children and books. Reading aloud to children, leisurely, spending time, taking care, and doing it in a loving space and environment. It's the best way to get children to bond with books. So how wonderful that you have done that yourself. Your perfect match. We wanted to recommend it, Ramendra Kumar, and we're going to say it, even though we don't have printed copies of the book here. It's available on Storyweaver. Spunky grandparents playing a match That's a hilarious, chuckle-worthy book, a hockey match, a chuckle-worthy book by author Ramendra Kumar. You can read it on storyweaver.com for free. Please do go and pick it up. I mean, read it of Storyweaver. Archana Natraj, pleasure to see you with who uses these books in so many wonderful ways. Shanti Subramaniam, welcome. You say you're loving the show. We are waiting eagerly, for what? For Murli Gopal Krishnan to join us, and we will in the next 15 minutes. Archana Natraj, wonderful library coordinator, using these books in excellent ways, suggesting marvelous activities with all of these books, and putting them up on your blog, Grey Matters. I urge all the teachers and librarians and parents who are watching here, and grandparents, to go up to Archana's blog and look at the wonderful books she recommends and the great activities she suggests, mostly matched with Indian children's books. It's great work, Archana. Welcome to our bazaar. Anita Venugopal, we welcome to the bazaar. We're delighted to see you here this week. I'm sure there are many books that are going to come and make their way into your home this week as well. And of course, to the one person, a big hello, the one person whom we love dearly at Funky Rainbow. And Muttama and Sham are absolutely have broken out into a jig knowing that she's here this morning. The one and only Subhadra Sen Gupta. Ladies and gentlemen, it is great honor and great pleasure that author Subhadra Sen Gupta, who has given us countless books on history, ghost stories, food stories, has joined us at this bazaar this morning. She's got to have the most wonderful sense of humor that we know, and I'm sure she's cracking with her sister some fantastic grandparents' jokes even as we chat. Welcome, Subhadra Sen Gupta and Team Funky Rainbow. If we didn't have to behave this decorously, would get into some Dabankut type of dance just right away. Thank you. It's such a pleasure, and we are going to have you come. Now that we know you can log into the bazaar, we're going to have you as a guest at one of our bazaars very, very, very soon. Big hug going out to you, Subhadra Sen Gupta. We are deeply honored that you have joined us at our book bazaar this morning. You have been a supporter of everything we do in so many wonderful ways, not just as an author, not just as somebody who talks about Funky Rainbow, but as a great friend, philosopher, and guide. Thank you, Subhadra. Vishwa Shah, absolutely a pleasure. Moon Mitra Das, I can't thank you for the wonderful, wonderful support you extend to us every week. A big shout out goes to you, Moon. Really a big, big, big clap to you and your children, because virtually from the time we've started the bazaar in May, you have just been picking up books from us every single time, and we are amazed. And it's not, it's just a bond. We didn't know you before the bazaar. You have become such a dear friend. Your children, we know them. When we send out books, we imagine in our heads that, will Amrita, you like this book or not like this book, and send it out to you. We are deeply thankful for these wonderful bonds, irrespective of whether you pick up or you don't pick up books. Muttama always says this. She says, we will have a Funky Rainbow library in Calcutta, because Moon will have all those books, and we can peacefully come and borrow the books that have gone out of stock from our collection in Calcutta. Thank you so much, Moon, for the unstinting support. We really are thankful for it. Sardul Singh, absolutely a pleasure. Aishwarya Iyer from Vedic Lore, so lovely that a teacher from a school, the founder of the school, has joined us from Vedic Lore. We're delighted to see you here this morning. Priti Kapoor, welcome from T4 Tales. We are delighted to welcome, have your books on our shelves. And after our baby book bazaar 2 weeks ago, we are very happy to say that many books have just flown off the shelves. Really, we hope you're going to discover some Tata Party ones here and pick them up for your family, or perhaps be inspired to come up with some great Tata Party books in T4 Tales as well. Shweta Sharan, welcome to our bazaar. Such a pleasure to see you here this morning. The work that you have done in connecting us with so many people, especially Toka Box. We do thank you for this great, wonderful network that reaches out to us at what is a most challenging time in our, 7 years as Funky Rainbow, and making these splendid connections that help us take our books here, there, everywhere. Snehal Tate, absolutely lovely to see you at the bazaar. Prabhu Reddy, welcome. Divya Menon, Mum Par Excellence. I know that's probably not the introduction that you want, but every single thing that you do with your children and post about your children really makes us feel that all it takes is this ability to bond with your kids that changes their lives forever. You have also, absolutely supported us, trusting every recommendation we make and taking it and giving us feedback. We're very happy to receive feedback from all our readers, young and old, because then it tells us and makes us more informed about whether those books meet specific reading requirements or not. Thank you for joining us at the bazaar. Muthukumar Vaidyanathan, Moon Mitra, you say, absolutely, please come down to Kolkata. A great thank you from Amritayu to all of you for such lovely book recommendations. A great thank you to Amritayu for making us recommend these books for him. Young boy, and that's what inspires us most of all to send our books here, there, everywhere. Muthukumar Vaidyanathan, such a pleasure to see you here this morning again. Thank you for joining us at the bazaar. And publisher, author par excellence, Richa Jha, thank you for being at the bazaar. Don't go away. There are some treats waiting for you at our bazaar. And by that, I have absolutely given away what is awaiting you in the bazaar. Mum Geeta Mani, grandmother to millions of children, all over the world. Thank you so much for joining us at the bazaar. I know you were secretly delighted. Nancy Raj, hello, happy Grandparents Week, you say. Hello to you too, Nancy Raj. We already featured Days with Tatu, and we wanted to say how much we love the illustrations that you made in that book of Mallar and, her grandpa. So beautiful, such a lovely book. Mum, grandparent to so many children around the world. I do indeed remember a trip that we made to the US some years ago, at which point in time all of us in our family were scrambling around to get SIM cards for our phones, whether it was my dad or my brother or me. We all wanted to get SIM cards for our phones, and my mother very coolly said, absolutely not required. You all have the phones, and I'm not going to use a phone when I'm there in the US to enjoy my nephew's wedding. And of course, the only person that got calls on all our phones was my mother. Several school children who have now are married and settled down in the US, wanting her to come home for a meal, wanting her to come and meet their children. So like I said, teachers, you are just, universal grandparents, not just to your own grandkids, but to kids all over the world. Thank you for joining in this morning, Mum. So I'm going to now move on to the next set of recommendations. I know we have 5 minutes before we introduce our guest for the day, and I will do, maybe 3 quick recommendations before we do that. I'm going to move to a book that is extremely special to Funky Rainbow, written by author Poili Sengupta, wonderful writer Poili Sengupta, and illustrated by our own founder partner, Sham. aka Grey Stroke. Now, this book is really special because Muttama had written to Poily for Funky Rainbow's fourth birthday, saying, "Please give us a little piece for our blog because it's our fourth birthday." And Poily, being the creative writer that she is, instantly sent us a charming story about a little girl called Ella who's turning 4. And of course, once the book came to, once the story came to us, we were so delighted. We put it up on our blog, and Greystroke made this beautiful single illustration for the story. And lo and behold, what happens to stories that are wonderful and are out on blogs? Tulika contacted us and said, "Do you think Poily would like to make this into a book?" And there it is, the book that is illustrated by Sham and has a little dedication to Funky Rainbow, saying 4 was first written for the 4th birthday of Funky Rainbow, the traveling children's bookshop. And yes, happily for us, Greystroke's Ella is smiling and shining bright. But the thing is, Ella has turned 4, and now they're thinking of all the wonderful things that are 4 in life. And who else but her fabulous grandma to help her, with all things that are 4 in life. Greystroke, being Greystroke, has drawn the quirkiest grandma ever with absolutely a cool haircut, which I wish he could give us in real life. And of course, he just says, "Please show the selfie picture," which is the last page of the book. The Ella, her grandma, and the other members of the family, cat and dog. It's sorry. Of course, Muttama says, "Please tell Greystroke to come and say hello." Greystroke is like, "No, we are broadcasting and I'm busy with that." But we send out a hello on behalf of Greystroke, for spunky, lovely grandma who spends time with her granddaughter Ella, trying to explain to her all the wonderful things in life that are 4. And we like some of those 4 things for sure. This is one of my favorite spreads in the book. 4 feet of the dog and 4 feet of cat snoozing away gloriously on the floor. This one, published by Tulika, works for 4+-year-olds and is priced at 175 rupees. And yes, before we go to Murli, because we know Richa Jha is here, there is this wonderful book from her publishing house, Pickle Yolk Books, written by Richa herself and illustrated by Gautam Benegal, Tata at School. And I just love the way the book opens. It opens and you can see this lovely school notebookish format for it, where it opens saying, "I'm with Tata, my grandfather, and this is my most favorite story of his. What's yours with your grandparents?" Such a lovely question to ask your children and have them come up with these wonderful stories. Now, in this story, there is Ovium, who is very, who is a bit sort of perplexed, puzzled, and unhappy. Why? Because it's grandparents' day at school. Everyone else is excited. Every single person is excited except Ovium, because she believes Grandparents' Day is a bad idea. And why does she think Grandparents' Day is a bad idea? Well, her Tata wears what she thinks is a crazy dhoti. My God, how can he come to school in a dhoti? And of course, Ovium is embarrassed by it. Such a lovely facet to pick up and weave a beautiful story around. And Gautam Benegal's quirky illustrations, as you can see, really add so much charm to the story. What happens to Ovium? Does Tata really come to school? And when he comes to school, if he comes to school, what happens? Very nice story exploring a different facet of a grandparent's relationship with her grandchild. Archana Atri, you say love Tata and Richa Jha, both absolutely lovable. We completely agree. And this is a wonderful book for your, for readers above the ages of 4 or 5. You can even read it to a younger child. Tata at School, published by Richa Jha's Pickle Yolk Books and priced at 350 rupees. We have one more recommendation before we welcome the guest of the day, and of course Richa Jha again, this time with a Pratham book called Binti Knows Her Mind. This is written by Richa Jha and illustrated by Kalyani Naravane, and it's a lovely book about a very nice theme. Richa has this ability to pick unusual themes and write about them. And we just love the fact that we have books on these slightly offbeat kind of themes in our collection of Indian children's books. Now, Binti, and I love the start of this book particularly because Binti, the protagonist of the book, Richa just encapsulates what a young child's energy is like when she first gets up in the morning. Every day, Binti woke up with the energy to move a mountain. Today, she could move 5. Okay, and it was a special day. Everybody at home was busy. Binti wanted to help them too. And of course, when Binti starts helping, everybody's worried because she's a young child. So dad says, don't do that. I can do it. And Binti is like, no, 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 I can do that myself. And she packs what she's done is climbed up a shelf and packs some yummy biscuits for her dadi. Next, she is, getting herself ready, and somebody says, Binti, Didi says, Binti, stop, you're going to fall. And she says, no, I'm going to do that myself. Basically, she's getting into the car and Didi says, stop, I can help you. And she says, no, I can do that myself. Now, it's lovely to see a protagonist who knows her mind, but in fact, she's getting into the car to clean it. That's what she's doing. And when her Didi says, I'll do it, she says, no, I can do it myself. And, creates a spotlessly clean, spanking clean car. Now, when she's doing all of these things and it's time to get ready and leave, and I can't resist giving this little bit of the story away to you. Why is she so excited? Why is she doing all these things herself? Because it is her dadi's graduation day. How beautiful. Dadi has gone back to study after ages, and it is her graduation day. And of course, we can't give away much more of the story because then we'd give away the whole book. But Binti Knows Her Mind, written by Richa Jha and illustrated by Kalyani Naravane, published by Pratham and priced at 45 rupees. Divya, you say, my daughter so much identifies with Binti. She messes up exactly like Binti deliberately to make it look like Binti. Our current favorite have been reading it every night. There you go, Richa Jha. There it is, right from a Binti in, right here in Bangalore. You can call a Binti by any other name, but it is, she is still just as spunky. So, yeah, of course, with that, we will, make an introduction to our guest of today, who is Murli Gopalakrishnan. I'm just checking whether he's come online. Murli, not up here yet. Would you like to check whether he's coming, or I can make one or two recommendations while I... Okay, you want to, just a short thing to check with our guest, whether he is, are there any technical glitches here? Would you like to find out whether he's coming online? So while we wait for our guest to sort of come, into the program, I will continue with one or two more recommendations. I'm going to do another favorite book of mine in Funky Rainbow's collection called pickle mania. Even before I say anything, I'm going to say, please grab this pickle instantly. Because, this is a story of a young girl called Nitya who just loves, is very curious about the pickle on her tata's plate. Now, the pickle on her tata's plate is red and fiery. So, for instance, she says, Nitya's grandfather's plate looked like this. What's that, Tata? Nitya asked him. And, he says, red pickle. Now, then she says, can I try some, please? Asked Nitya. And pickles are too spicy for children, said Party, Nitya's grandmother. You can have them when you grow up. But of course, children don't want to listen to anything that adults tell them. So Nitya sneaks up into the kitchen and wants to take one lick of the fiery red pickle that is in one of the jars. So, of course, the first pickle that she samples is a red lemon pickle. And you know what, Indians, we know that mazza of eating pickles, so well. My mouth is almost watering when I'm talking about these red lemon pickles. And I'm not even a fan of lemon pickle, actually, right? She licks it, and it's licky lick. She licks it, and guess what happens? Oh my God, Nitya's tongue sizzled. She quickly had to drink some water. She had to bite into a soft brown gulab jamun. Yum, 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 yum. And she says, no more pickles for me. But alas, the gooseberry pickle jar is right next to her. I'm, of course, as always, not going to give away more of this charming, delicious, mouth-watering story by Sri Vidya Venkat and illustrated by Shelja Jain Chogule, published by Tota Books, Pickle Mania, about a girl and her love for pickles, and what role do Party and Tata play in her pickle mania. This one is priced at 195 rupees and published by Tota Books. Of course, our guest for the day is here. Sham, just give me the phone. Our guest for the day is here now, and I'm going to just do a quick introduction to Murli Gopalakrishnan, who's someone that I met in the most unexpected way, sorry. Yeah, sure. Murli Gopalakrishnan, whom I met in a most unexpected manner, in my life. And the reason it is very unexpected is because I first met him at the gym. While it is certainly possible that you would never believe that I hit the gym, Murli can vouch for the fact that we indeed did meet up at the gym. And this is at least 7-8 years ago, or possibly even 9 years ago. The wonderful thing is that I met Murli, his wife Shanti, and his daughter Archita, and our connection has just been serendipitous across these last 8-9 years. We've been in touch on and off. We've had most unexpected encounters, in different places with Murli, which makes us believe that the Murli genie is hovering over Funky Rainbow in multiple ways. Now, one time I remember we were going to be meeting somebody very high up from Scholastic India, and he had come down all the way from Delhi to meet us. And what happened was that morning there was a Bandh announced in Bangalore, but they had already set off from the airport to meet us, and we had fixed to meet at some coffee shop in Bangalore, which we went to and found that it was completely shut. Like I said, the Murli genie is hovering around all of us, and unexpectedly, after a whole year, we find Murli and his colleague walking out of the same coffee shop. And the coffee shop was saying that we are going to close. So guess what we did? Murli's office was, of course, 2 buildings away, and we promptly borrowed the office to have our meeting with Scholastic. And we have to just say that there are so many anecdotes like this about, Murli, when it comes to helping people and being the most genial person that we have known serendipitously across all these years. Of course, in his capacity, he's a doting grandfather to 2 young, granddaughters now, Tara and Dia. And more than that, Murli runs, a movement called the Children of Krishnagiri, where he works with HIV-infected children to give them a home, to give them schooling. And like we said in our introduction, on our Facebook post, to be a grandfather, not just to his granddaughters, but to all those wonderful children in Krishnagiri, at the home that he has set up for them. Welcome, Murli Gopal Krishnan. It's such a pleasure to have you at Funky Rainbow's Buzzaar.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. That was one hell of an introduction.
We are, so glad that this is happening, this morning. And I wanted to put out to you a clutch of questions. Are we able to hear him clearly? Everyone, can we hear him clearly? Okay, that's fine. We are able to hear you clearly. I'm going to talk about various things you've done, Murli, both as a grandparent, and as the founder of this wonderful movement, Children of Krishnagiri. In fact, I do want to say that I know, when you were talking last week, you say that you have been given the epithet of voice of the children, and that's what you like to do best. I hope in the course of this conversation with you, we will know what the voice of children does for his own grandchildren as well as for children everywhere.
Sure. Looking forward to it.
So I'm going to, of course, start off with my first question to you, Murli. You have 2 granddaughters, yet, like I said, you're the most young at heart person we have ever known. Basically, you've been running this movement for children, for HIV infected children, called the Children of Krishnagiri. And I also know at one time, you have also walked, and I assume that your walking will be my running, all the way from Bangalore to Krishnagiri to raise funds for the home that you have set up for the children. Tell me, do you really believe, I think for your granddaughters, you must be such a positive role model. Do you really think that grandparents can be positive role models for their grandchildren?
Yeah, I definitely do believe that. Well, whether my granddaughter feels that way, I think we'll have to wait for her to grow up a little more to ask that. So, I definitely feel for 2 reasons. The primary reason being, I think the grandchildren, as they are growing up, they are a little slow paced, and the grandparents have slowed down. The in between, the parents are in a bit of a hurry, for whatever reasons, and so I think we have a matching frequency, the grandchildren and the grandparents.
That's
So
nice.
that sets the foundation for all grandparents and grandchildren to be inspired, and we are willing to be patiently waiting to tell our story, listen to their story. So thereby they look up to us for all that enthusiasm. So you can leave those right kind of messages for them and inspire them. So it is a motivation for grandparents to go about trying new things, to go about the job of inspiring their grandchildren. I'm sure. And since every question you ask, I wanted to share some books that I have picked out of your
That
Funky
is
Rainbow.
lovely. Yes.
And I have this Be the Change, written
Yes.
by Arun Gandhi on Mahatma Gandhi. One of the most simple book on inspiration, on environment and violence, non-violence are both what he is touched upon. A small pencil is what he picks up as a point that he threw carelessly, and how Mahatma Gandhi told him that and made him realize how important it was not to be careless about even wasting such a thing. Very, very inspiring. So I'm sure this goes a long way to my grandchildren and even my children at Krishnagiri. When I walk, they have completely gone out of the fear of HIV. They now, the entire 220 of them believe that it is not life threatening anymore. So even something as serious as that, the children can get inspired. So that's very, very, I completely agree with the statement that you made. The grandparents are a source of inspiration.
I just love what you said, Murli, about, you and, grandparents and grandchildren having the same pace of life. That's right. Parents are rushing around here, there, and everywhere to get different things done. And grandparents and grandchildren perhaps enjoying that same wonderful pace that gives you the time and opportunity to get to know each other and bond with each other. Actually, that leads me to my next question, which is about bonding with your grandkids, because we know that reading and storytelling are just wonderful ways in which you have bonded with your own grandkids who are growing up in the US. Now, tell us, we believe, that it's possibly the best way for parents and, grandparents and grandchildren to bond, which is the best way to do it is over books, reading, and stories. Do you agree? And have you shared some experience? Have you had experiences of that yourself?
Yeah. It's a delight. Tara, our granddaughter, completely enjoys the reading bit. She will not go to bed. In fact, it has become a routine for Archita after we come back to India to continue this routine, though Archita herself is an avid reader. Tara loves the way you have to do a bit of drama when you're reading out the book. You have to make all kinds of funny noises. You have to, So otherwise, the normal conversation between a grandparent and a daughter is the usual thing. But the story brings a new light of things around them. And Tara loves it. And in fact, I get tired sometimes because Tara will say, read the next one, read one more, let us read the other one. And she will go on and on and on, So every time now I go to a bookshop, when I pick up a book, I ensure that I can read it well, so that I have a task in hand so that I don't. And so for this question, there's a beautiful humorous book called The Never-Ending Story. It is hilarious because if you read it alone without a child around you, you might get bored. But I can imagine Tara laughing it out every time I add the lady comes, then the daughter comes, then the dog comes, then the dog's tail, the hair in the tail. Actually, at one point, the kid will get exasperated because it adds to the memory also. She has to keep remembering the sequence of things. So there are many such, but for this question, I remember The Never-Ending Story as a very beautiful book to, delight your grandchildren, which I've done.
We will check with your daughter whether that is true or not, Murli. We are not, and with we're not taking your word for it. And your granddaughter when she's here in India next. But Never-Ending Story, as Murli said, published by Tulika, is a marvelous story. It's a chain story which goes on and on and on with the grandmother in the story, who is Ajji, who is adding one layer after the other to the story, and it's a story that never ends. So like Murli says, for those eternally curious children, it's a lovely one to read to them. Of course, I also believe that, when I started the program, I was talking about, how there are two wonderful things that I remember about my grandparents. And that is, one, this tradition of going to a bookshop, and two, playing badminton, one that came from my paternal grandfather and one from my, maternal grandmother. And I think, really in many ways, grandparents are a great way of keeping family traditions, family stories, family values alive. They have so many stories and experiences that from their own lives and the lives of, their own children that they can share with their grandchildren, isn't it? Do you really believe that these stories and this, these traditions, do you think they help grandchildren form a sense of identity, get a sense of who they are, and where they belong in this world?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think when suppose to a grandchild you're saying about first day in school of how her own mother, my daughter, you tell that it sits in her mind so well. In fact, when you explain, especially Archita and Tara being in the US, suppose you're talking about a festival that happens in India,
Right.
they get so kicked about it, and and any routine for that matter. What really happens, so these stories are best told patiently and with the reasonable knowledge, better than the mother, is by the grandparents. So and she's pretty excited, I still remember Tara getting excited about wearing bangles for the first time, and she was delighted, and she was saying it's so exciting. And then yeah, that's how she reacts when I tell a story, I think. So it's beautiful. I think they catch on to all these things, festivals or whatever that, especially for there. I'm sure kids living out here in India, many of them miss out on these traditions of what happens, So I agree, be it festivals or routine or earlier past stories. It's a beautiful way to connect with your child, the little one.
Nice.
And so every question you ask, I picked up about a dozen books from Vidya just to ensure that
only a dozen, only impossible.
doesn't book yesterday. So we
Yes.
buy quite a few from her. So lunch friends, a beautiful
Sham,
story.
put it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, Sham will show it. Yeah.
Sam will do that. Yeah, it's a beautiful. In fact, this is something like when I was a child, feeding those days in Chennai, there were only crows, I think, or some sparrows. And my mother would put out this so-called dal and rice and everything out. And these guys would promptly land up. And much later in life, when we grew up and we, to a large extent, forgot this routine, we used to celebrate the death anniversary, and we had this ritual of putting this rice out. And there were no crows or anything turning up because those guys have forgotten the routine. And this story brought out that spirit very well, how the child connects about the essentiality of having a tree, growing a tree, how it is so important for the living things around. This story is so beautifully. I read it 2 times with yesterday. This story, I enjoyed it. Lovely book.
That is lovely. It is, as you say, the little boy in the story, Joseph Abraham, you're saying it's a wonderful initiative and great chat, enjoying it, KGM being Murli Gopal Krishnan, of course. And so Kanya says, awesome, lovely to see all of you tuning in and watching. So the routine, the grandmother used to feeds the crows feeds the birds in this story. And, Kavita saying, wow, Murli, grandparents' love will never grow old. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so
You're
true.
saying all the right things that I've told them, I think.
And, we have to be, we will see whether there's, whether you have want to say.
Don't anybody who's watching this, don't miss this series by Ashok
Rajagopalan.
Amazing set of books. This Gajapati Kulapati. While I've been with Tara, I've seen all his books, and fantastic. I think the story of the elephant is just not to be missed at all.
Yes. Absolutely.
So beautifully. I sometimes wonder how these authors think about weaving this kind of a story so much around you, which is so much around you. The postman, the banana seller.
we introduced Gajapati saying that it's a book that no child, no parent, or no grandparent will not enjoy, basically, right?
Completely.
So,
Amazing.
Lunch Friends was one of your recommendations. And of course, I wanted to move on to that thing which I feel a lot of grandchildren pick up from their grandparents, several hobbies. For instance, it could be, it could be sewing, it could be baking, it could be gardening, it could be stitching. I know, my grandmother desperately attempted to teach me to stitch. I can't stitch a button today, I have to confess, but I did learn other things that she taught me. Do you think, that's something that, that's a great value that grandparents bring to grandchildren's lives?
Yeah, another area. I think you're touching all the areas that we all go through with our grandchildren. And this is amazing because I remember Tara, I enjoy a bit of cooking. And so she used to be fascinated. And whenever we start making chapatis, for that instance, Tara would immediately want a bit of action there. And it would take various shapes. And she would seek an approval and find out how you are doing it so perfectly round and all that. And when we try to grow, when we see a plant, we plant something and we see a small thing sprouting up, there is delight. The first thing she would run out the morning is to see, has it grown a little more better? Like the earlier book I said, that child goes through a similar experience when he puts that mango seed. So children connect to you very fast. In fact, I used to walk with Tara when I'm in the US, and she'll have 2,000 questions. Other than walking, she'll have 2,000 questions about things around. Why does it run like that? Why does this tree bend like this? And you have to be fairly well equipped not to give an idiotic answer. So I think my knowledge level improved a lot thanks to Tara, because I would be scared that this kid would ask me something and I wouldn't know about it. So the last 5 years, my knowledge level has improved drastically because of Tara. I can't. It's a second child, Dia, is only 1 year old. So another 5 years, I'm going to be some doctorate in children.
You'll win the Nobel. Murli, you'll win the Nobel. I'm telling you that. Okay. With your grandkids, basically, right?
So here's a book that says it all. Tata's Pumpkin. Amazing. Because this involves growing a pumpkin and the Tata making that pumpkin halwa. And the child getting inspired and growing the pumpkin. Beautifully told book.
Absolutely. It is a Karadi Tales book. And Murli, I'm sure this is Murli, I'm sure you're a wonderful Tata. Somebody is saying, and how lovely is that? But you're right, Tatas are wonderful. And Archana says, Archana Atri, who runs a fantastic book club for children, says she's just loving your stories. Richa Jha writing in and saying 2,000 questions sounds about just right. They could have. Anam Fatima says, this chat is such a pleasant trip down memory lane. Of course it is. I wanted to tell you that my grandmother made an attempt to teach me how to make chapatis. 47 years down the line, not one round chapati have I successfully made in this lifetime. I don't know whether it reflects on my party or it reflects on me, but I can at least make a chapati that resembles different continents, I'm sure. Okay.
I'm sure you must be eating them well.
100%. That's why I need to be to the gym. Of course, we have to ask you a question about of the wonderful work that you're doing with the children of Krishnagiri. What prompted you to, work with HIV infected children and set up a home for them, take care of their education and, really in a sense, becoming a grandfather figure to so many children besides your own?
Yeah. So I'll not take a long time. This is my favorite subject and I love my voice. So both are dangerous. I went into Krishnagiri on some other work of a similar nature to work with schools for children who couldn't pay their fees. And one of my friends started a project. So I went there, I saw this problem being a major one, the HIV, and there are a lot of children dying of HIV. And I met a child called Durga. This is my famous starting point story. And Durga was orphaned and she was HIV infected. When I met her, she was in a hut, one guy who was selling chips in the bus stand. He has 3 children, and he had adopted Durga. So I was
Oh,
dumbstruck when I met this guy and said, "How did you do it? I don't think I would do it." And he said, "There was nobody, sir." So I took her. So I realized
how
that
wonderful.
money status don't mean anything if you want to really step out. And that's how Durga started our journey. And these 11 years has been phenomenal because 90% of my children don't have parents. They all lost to HIV. And
Uh-huh.
so we grew with them. And literally, we supply their entire nutritious food every month. We take care of all their medical needs. For the last 4 years, we have made a mission statement not to lose a single child to HIV, and we are
How
maintaining that.
wonderful.
And we have built a beautiful home for the children uh, in a 1 acre land, a 6,000 square foot beautiful home. We don't encourage because children love to grow around their relatives, all said and done. But we bring in to improve on their health or education. So we keep them for
Education.
some time and put them back. But an amazing bonding for no reason. I didn't know Krishnagiri at all. For the last 11 years, I become part of Krishnagiri and my children. We have also adopted a government school to understand the learning much better and going beyond HIV. We are working
Mhm.
with children, and so the journey is fascinating. And from a grandparent week, so I have to tell you two quick stories. There is a girl called Jyoti who came to me when she was in class 10,
Mhm.
and Jyoti lost her father when the mother was
We have
3 months
Hmm.
pregnant, and
Hmm.
her mother died when Jyoti was 3 months old, and the
Hmm.
maternal grandmother, yeah, that's Jyoti. The maternal
Yes.
grandmother brought up Jyoti until she reached class 10. And Jyoti used to be a very silent child. She came into our home, and now Jyoti is doing her second year of college in Chennai. You should watch to believe
Oh,
what a
how lovely.
transformation. So those are blessings that I always call that we got to be involved in a child like Jyoti. And even today, when the grandmother visits Jyoti, I love to sit there and watch both of them checking on each other. I've got some groundnuts for you. Did you eat well? Are you taking care? Have you turned a little darker now? You know, it's so beautiful to watch. And the grandmother always says, uh, I might go away, ensure that you're always with the child, you know. So amazing grandparents in this journey because since most of the parents have gone away, about 60-70% of the children are taken care of by their grandparents. And they go do daily wages, amazing grit, and they stay put to work out for the child. There can't be a better motivation for me than watching these grandparents at a much older age fighting it out with all the economic challenges, you know. And one more was Sushma. Sushma and
Mhm.
her grandfather were so attached. Sushma had lost her mother and sister, everybody. And
Oh.
Sushma is very attached to us. And after the hospitalization, we wanted to keep Sushma with us. The granddaughter and the grandfather would never agree to get separated. They said, no way. And at one point, he got so irritated. The grandfather told me, is she my grandchild or your grandchild? Don't try to push me. You know? So amazing. Even it touches you, the grandparents and the grandchildren. And we celebrate Diwali with these children for the last 10 years. And we hire a marriage hall and do a big gala function. We get dresses for everybody. We
How
honor the
nice.
caregivers, and at that time you should see when the feast is happening after all the cultural event, dance, drama, and all, the grandchildren would run down and pick up those ice cream, those jalebis, and come and give it to you eat, because the grandchild thinks it is because of me you're getting this piece, and so the grandchild suddenly becomes a host. So there are so many. I can go on. I mean, I know this is Funky Rainbow Show. I have a tendency to take over. So
It is quite clearly deserves to be your show. It's remarkable what you say. Somebody says Preeti Ramchandran's asking you, Murli, how can we help this cause, please?
yeah,
She is somebody who's picked up books from us aplenty. Asha Nehemiah saying amazing work. We are, Arpita Tyagi says, how can we extend help to you? These are all people who have supported us by way of buying many books, and we can. Vijay Lakshmi Nagraj saying, amazing work you're doing, Murli.
Thank you.
We are very, very happy to connect all of them. And if there's a way in which they can help the children of Krishnagiri and your movement, we would be delighted.
Yeah. And so visit childrenofkrishnagiri.com, my website. You will know about what we are doing. And
Yes.
my number, my mail ID, everything is there. So children of Krishnagiri.
That is just wonderful.
Just connect up. Yeah.
We are happy
we like it.
absolutely help anyone who's interested in getting in touch with Murli and is having some trouble doing it through the website. Please be in touch with Funky Rainbow, and we're very happy to share all the coordinates, Murli's coordinates and the children of Krishnagiri's coordinates. It is just remarkable. I have to here put in a word to a wonderful friend. When we started off our bookshop after during the COVID times, we were just completely concerned about how we were going to survive. And we started a prepaid book voucher campaign. Now, the prepaid book voucher campaign, had people picking up, prepaid vouchers to use anytime later in the year till the 31st of March, 2021. Muttama, has several friends who work in the space of disability. Joanne Saldana, you're saying fascinating. This is so inspiring. The thing is that, many people, whom we contacted, Sukanya says, wonderful gesture for a project that's truly touching. Thank you. A couple of people that Muttama, is interacting with, several of them came forward and said, we are buying these vouchers, but we don't want books for our children. You can give them away to, to any group that you think really wants books and are not able to get books at the moment. And we would like to give a shout out to Elizabeth, who is Elizabeth Phillip at Raksha, who works at Raksha, who has given her money so generously to buy books entirely for the children of Krishnagiri. And when Murli visited us at the office, a couple of weeks ago, some happy bags full of books in Tamil and in English, which will hopefully reach the children of Krishnagiri very, very soon. We are very happy to do this as well for the homes. If people would like to contribute books or would like to be in touch with Murli directly, we are very, very happy to reach books to anyone who may.
That is a delightful start, because we are just going to set up the library in the home.
Lovely. So, I want you to tell me, I do remember when you were talking about this, there was a wonderful anecdote that you shared. You said when you were coming up with the name for your home, it's called Namma Veedu, which means my house or our home.
Originally, when we built this home, there were names coming up, which is typically, would say, Sharanalayam or those kind of names. Which, since we were interacting with the children closely, I sounded out once to them, what do you think we should name this place? And those kids were very clear that don't call it something that sounds like it's a place for abandonment. So, because they feel when I go to school, I don't want to be saying I live in a place where I have nobody. You're all there. So it seemed a valid point. So we passed it around. We said, shall we call it a village? And then we said, somebody came with a suggestion and said, call it Namma Veedu. So it becomes easier for the child to say, where are you going? Namma Veedu ba. I'm going to Namma Veedu. So that became the name of the place we have created for our children. So beautiful it is.
How lovely. I mean,
where are you
going? Sorry, go ahead.
Go and ask the children when you're in a doubt. Go and talk to the children. After reading your book, you can talk to them also. They give you some basic funda, which is very good.
No? I love that. Where are you going home? I mean, where are you going from school? We are going to our home. Such a lovely thing. What a wonderful gesture it is, Murli. And, I know you had chosen a lovely book, to focus, and you yourself had sort of chosen this, from our collection when you came in that day. You picked Granny's Sari by author Asha Nehemiah. Yes, please do tell us why you picked this one. And author Asha Nehemiah is here listening to you.
first I picked up this book because this sari for myself, for my mother's sari, or for a lot of us, the sari, the smell of the sari is a great connection. Your grandmother, your mother's, and I have seen some of my children in Krishnagiri also going through this connection with the smell. So I thought it was something similar like that when I picked up the book and just said, I have to read this. There are two things that stands out. One is the way they have told the story, or the sari flying away and touching 2-3 people, and then a story around it. So beautiful. And how the sari is made itself is so beautifully described that a child would get excited about a sari. Otherwise, your normal Kanjivaram sari may not be exciting. But the way the sari is explained here is so beautiful. And the finale, that is the best part. The grandmother teaching the child the art of giving in a very gracious way. Beautiful
So
and so lovely. I love that book. I think I'm not going to send this to Tara. I'm going to retain it myself.
And hence not following up on that spirit of giving whatsoever. But the author Asha Nehemiah is watching, and she
Thank
said
you,
she's
Asha.
so
Thank you, Asha.
thrilled to
Thank you, Asha.
hear what
Lovely
you
book.
have to say, Murli. The connection is so beautiful to what you have done as well, at the Children of Krishnagiri. And of course, because so many parents and grandparents are watching, we would like you in your own inimitable style to give them, and we do know, we agree that you have this inimitable style, why don't you give them, some tips on how they can bond with their grandchildren? Yeah.
Good. Now that you're all stuck with me, you have no choice but to listen to me. I'm watching who's leaving the show. Okay, so be careful about it. So I wrote on 5 critical things that I've observed that I would large extent follow. And Archita, my daughter, to a great extent follows this. So I think there are very useful tips. So I'll quickly run through them. One is kids thrive on a routine. Keep a specific time for reading, preferably end of the day. When you're going to bed, I would suggest, when you're also relatively it's easy. Don't be in a rush and do it in the middle of something that you're doing, because the kids needs all your attention. So fix a routine, preferably end of the day, that I would say, which is very critical, you should do. Second, start with simple books. Don't try to show off your knowledge to the child. So pick up some books that the child will find it interesting, which has a lot of visuals. So start with simple books is my second suggestion. And keep books in multiple places. Don't sort of keep the book high up there and you will take it and give it. Leave some books in the car, leave some books in the living room. Keep the bookshelf at ground level, so that even when you're not there, the child might slowly, out of curiosity, pick up a book and start looking through it. So make it accessible for the child. And that is, and while you're reading the book, become a performer. Just they say you have to dance to get out of your shyness. So you can make noises, you can sing, and the child might be amused, but the child will remember. I'm sure grandparents are great at it, and though their children might find it very irrelevant, seeing their parents doing all kind of this clownish activity, but the grandchild is amazingly interested in all that. So act it out, act that character out. And the last, take them to a library. I think so essential. Unless you can create a library at home, I am delighted. I think everybody should have a library at home, whether they have anything. Even if they don't have a kitchen, I'm okay. But have a library. But to be fair to the audience on a Saturday afternoon, I would say take them to a library and just leave them. They will figure their way out, and they will first imitate. They might not even read out properly, but leave them there. They will figure it out. So just keep them around, and that's the best way for a child to grow. So I have seen it across 2 generations. So that's all, free tip. I don't charge you for it, so take it.
We, on the contrary, will definitely charge you for it. You have already, Jyoti Narayan saying such simple tips. How lovely. The thing is, we will definitely, you have, in more ways than one, paid us in, in unimaginable ways, Murli. I mean, I really, I can't believe that, it's somebody that we met in a gym. A big shout out goes to Murli's wife, Chanti Subramaniam, who has taken every care to ensure Murli doesn't forget any of the points or any of the books. Also a Montessori teacher.
And stay connected.
Yes. Sivamurthy is saying we will pay you for the tips. How lovely is that, Murli? But a big shout out goes to Shanti, a Montessori teacher herself, and this we look forward to this wonderful relationship going forward, and becoming some many more wonderful things in the future. Thank you so much.
I have to tell the last. I am
Of
always
course.
used to. The last line is mine. So people who are in Bangalore, don't miss visiting Funky Rainbow. After Corona, I don't know. They are not, these set of 3 people are not as scared of Corona as the world is. So, but do go to their place. It's a beautiful setting. And you'll be amazed. There are 7,000 titles of Indian authors. I fell off my chair. And they are lovely people. They feed you well. They take care of you. And you will be just fascinated. So get a chance. And you rarely meet people in life who do things that they're passionate about. Muttama, Shyam, and Vidya are those 3. Hats off to them. Hats off to them. Touch many more lives, Funky Rainbow.
Thank you so much, Murli. That is just such a lovely testimonial. Thank you so much for joining us at the Buzzaar today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. And when you're back in Bangalore, I know you're in Coimbatore right now. Sunila Kulkarni says, thank you so much. Archana Atri says, thank you so much. It was invaluable and fun. It is, we look forward to doing many more interesting things together.
Sure.
Like I said, you're the most young at heart person, and we will, most certainly.
Don't let the gray hair fool you.
No, absolutely not. Right? You already have a job in marketing at Funky Rainbow. That's.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Absolutely a pleasure, to have Murli Gopal Krishnan here. And like I said, not somebody from the space of books that we know, but just such a wonderful human being doing great work. We felt it would fit the theme of our grandparents' bazaar, grandma, grandpa bazaar so well. And we really hope you enjoyed that conversation with him. You can certainly be in touch with him. We've put out the website details there. Please do. They'd be very happy for, any support that, you would like to give them. We're also happy to send them books. So you can, send them books via Funky Rainbow as well, or through any of your favorite independent bookstores. We will go back to recommending, grandparents' books, and there are just so many. Murli has recommended, 5 lovely ones, all of them up at, on www.funkyrainbow.com. Please go to the website, go to the header that says Buzzaar, and click, and there will be a header that says Grandma and Grandpa. Please click that link, and all the books recommended at this Buzzaar are in there. You can place your orders if any of these books have interested you, or would like to gift to your children, to your grandchildren or children. I will, go back to making some recommendations, some more recommendations. As always, more recommendations. Muttama wanted me to say thank you for all the love, hearts, and laughs everyone sending our way, lockdown or no lockdown. Absolutely, we really thank you for all the support that you send our way. Vijay Lakshmi Nagraj, you say, thank you, Effa, for this fabulous session. Thank you so much, Vijay Lakshmi. Enjoyed every minute spoken, Archana Shivram. What a pleasure it was to hear Murli. Murli, you spoke on our behalf about the trio at Funky. Oh, thank you so much, Preeti Ramchandran. It's such a pleasure that we've managed to connect with so many people at a time that the world is somewhat locked down. I'm going to continue with a clutch of more recommendations. As always, more books to recommend than we can speak about. But please do visit the Buzzaar books, because there are at least 50, 60 books, and I don't think we're going to be able to recommend more than 25 or 30 of them. I'm going to move to a lovely, a story in our collection called The Glass Tree by M. Mukundan. M. Mukundan writes in Malayalam. He's a very well-known Malayalam writer in Malayalam. And this one, illustrated by Poonam Athale and translated from Malayalam, is a lovely story about a Muttashi who's Unni's Muttashi. Now, what is charming about this book is the fact that only Unni's stories could put Muttashi to sleep, not the other way around. Only Unni's stories could put his grandmother to sleep. And Unni is a master storyteller indeed. So he starts off this book by telling his grandmother the story of a glass tree. Of course, there's a lot of history and drama and action, and it's really got these colorful, stark illustrations of a commander-in-chief and a tree, and what is the significance of this beautiful glass tree. It's a retelling of a prize-winning story in Malayalam by the well-known writer M. Mukundan, and it's just right for the little storytellers in your life, because this, the little storyteller in this book is the one who's telling the stories to his grandmother. We love the context. We love, the way the story is situated, and the fabulous fantasy that Unni is able to spin for his Muttashi. Again, such a lovely word for a grandma, just rolls off the tongue. This one is published by Katha and priced at 225 rupees. Our next recommendation, and of course, a Buzzaar on grandparents would not be complete without recommending this gorgeous book, Tukpa for All. We know, this book has been listed in the 2019 IBI catalog of outstanding books for young people with disabilities. And it is well and truly a beautiful book in many ways. It is set in the Northeast, and it is a story of young Sering who is going about trying to invite everyone to come home to eat his abi being his grandmother, to taste his abi's thukpa. Of course, a beautiful setting, and as you can see, written by Prabha Ram and Sheila Pruitt, and illustrated by Shilpa Ranade, published by Karadi Tales. This lovely story, with all these lovely prayer flags and, set so beautifully in a mountainous terrain, is all about Sering inviting various people to come home and taste his abi lay, as he calls her. Abi, of course, being grandmother, but the lay being, added to it. His abi lay's tukpa. Abi lay is, of course, getting it all ready. But just as she is putting it all together, the power goes off in their house. And till the power goes off and Sering starts helping his abi, you have no idea that Sering is visually challenged. What a beautiful book. What a lovely bond between grandmother and grandchild. And, a beautiful portrayal of, disability, which really moves you. And of course, over and above, all of that, a great story of grandson, grandmother bonding. Lovely book that should be read by many children, parents, and grandparents. This one, published by Karadi Tales, is a handsome hardback volume and priced at 399 rupees. Two quick, lovely books that I'm going to sort of talk of, together, because they have one writer is similar to both these books. There is My Grandfather's Funny Eyebrows, written by Aarti Muttana Singh and Mamta Naini, and illustrated by Shreya Sen, and Muttashi's Missing Teeth, written by Mamta Naini and illustrated by Debashish Sarma. The thing is, the grandfather in my grandfather's funny eyebrows is very special. And what is just which makes you chuckle in the book is that the grandchildren over here can predict grandfather's mood by just looking at his eyebrows. Look at this lovely spread that that tells you why Zion's grandfather is special, and what is the most unique thing about him being the fact that his thick scruffy eyebrows surely give away his every mood. We have very limited copies of this book, I'm afraid, at the moment, but it's published by Tota and priced at 195 rupees. And exactly in that same manner is a book about a mutashi who can ride the bicycle much stronger and much better than her own grandchild Bela. Now, what happens is that while they're having fun together, one day Mutashi misplaces her false teeth. Alas and alack, what happens when false teeth go missing? Bela, her granddaughter, is enlisted to solve this mystery simply because there are some delicious treats waiting to be eaten. Can Bela find her Mutashi's teeth? That forms the crux of this delightful tale, illustrated by Debashish Sarma and written by Mamta Naini, called Mutashi's Missing Teeth, priced at 195 rupees. And both these books we would recommend for 4+year-olds. We have to, of course, talk of some feisty grandmas as well. And not that the grandmas that have come and grandpas that have come and gone this far are not so feisty, but this is perhaps one of the feistiest ones of them all, from I Will Save My Land, written by Rinchin, the activist writer Rinchin, and illustrated by Sagar Kolvankar. The thing is, this is a story of, the kind of theme that we rarely see in books for such young readers. It is a story about being connected to your land and not allowing a mining corporation and the land mafia to take it away. Can you believe that there is a picture book that tells the story in a manner that's suitable for 6+year-olds? And this one, the protagonist Mati meaning, mud in Hindi, and her Aji Mati sees her father and grandmother farming, and she wants to be given a small portion of the land to take care of herself. She wants to be independent. She wants to take care of it independently. And of course, there's a dreadful mining mafia that is trying to take away the lands of all the people in that village. The story is set in Chhattisgarh. And, the thing is that we do, you get a sense of the place, you get a sense of the problems that, the people in this village have to encounter in their battle with the mining mafia. And Mati and Aji are possibly two of the most feisty women, girl and women we have encountered in, Indian children's books. And of course, Rinchin is an activist writer, so she really is able to recreate this, atmosphere and this entire story of a feisty girl and her grandma battling to save their land. The book won the Neve Book Award in 2018 and is such a well-deserved award. Published by Tulika and priced at 165 rupees, we would recommend it for 6+year-olds. This too, is a lovely little book about a Nani, and the author of the book is perhaps one of the feistiest women we know in our lives, the activist writer Kamla Bhasin. I mean, her work in the space of women empowerment is just legendary, and she is really one of our finest voices, in ensuring there's equal rights for all. And what I like about this book, which is, of course, brings in something of her philosophy, written by Kamala Bhasin, The Red Fairy, and illustrated by Tanvi Bhatt, is about a nani, about a little girl who, likes to go here, there, everywhere, all around her neighborhood in her cycle. However, one day she sees a lovely little red car in the neighborhood, and it's a teeny tiny little car. Now, this car, she labels it the Red Fairy. Now, the Red Fairy belongs to a nani in the neighborhood, and the lovely messaging of this book, it is a car that doesn't run on diesel or on petrol. It is an eco-friendly battery operated car, and nani goes about explaining to the little girl why it is important to keep our environment clean and green, thereby showing us what an empowered lady she indeed is. So I think the character, the girl in the book, is called Mito, and perhaps, and I think that's the name of Kamala Bhasin's late daughter. How lovely to pay a tribute to your daughter by naming a character in a book after her, so she lives on forever and ever. And what a feisty nani in this book, zipping around here, there, everywhere in a car that can do things that no other car can. Lovely little book from Pratham, priced at 40 rupees, The Red Fairy. We have a whole. Yes, sorry. Sham was telling me, C.S. Subramaniam, wow, I Will Save My Land is such a great thought for young kids to inculcate, to support the right and the truth. Indeed, it is. And, we must never shy away from introducing our children to the complexity that goes into making India, the diversity that goes into making our country. And that's why at Funky Rainbow, we are so committed to, introducing Indian children's books to children, across the country and all over the world. There are a couple of old favorites, and as I said, piles and piles of books. So maybe, and I know we probably just have another 15 minutes to go, so I'm just going to zip past 5 minutes to go. And if you all say yes, we will go on for 15 more minutes. But otherwise, you can find all these recommendations at our book bazaar. I'm not leaving, somebody says, so I'm not leaving either, is what I say. Thank you, Shivamurthy Tangarasu. I'm very, very happy that you're not leaving. Shows everybody at Funky Rainbow. I'm just going to, though I know it's a Saturday and we don't want you to, keep you away from your lunches and, a good meal with your families. So I will take maybe 10-15 minutes extra recommending another clutch of wonderful books. I'm going to zip through a few which I think many of you may be familiar with. This one, delightful book for grandma and grandparent and grandchild to read together. Archana Atri is already saying yes. Divya Purandara is saying yes. Please go on. You say Nani's Walk to the Park is a charming story about a little boy who goes on a walk with his grandmother in her neighborhood. It is what we call a big book because big books work very well for young children. There are large illustrations. It's lovely to spot different things using these books, and we encourage parents of young readers to pick this up and you tell the story to their children or grandchildren with this. Now, Venki is going on a walk with his Nani. And where do you think Nani is going for a walk? Of course, written and illustrated by the one and only Deepa Balsavar, whose books you simply can't get your eyes off, actually, because of how much detail there is in the pages. So Nani walks him through the lane of treasures. And what do you see in the lane of treasures? My God, samosas. There's golgappa, there's dahi, there's Chinese bhelpuri even, basically. And Smita Nair, you say Nani's walk is such a delight. Absolutely. From the lane of treasures, they go on to the lane of happiness, from the lane of happiness, there is, the lane of friendship. And every step of the way, Nani is showing Venki the treasures of her world. And when I say big book, when you have an illustrative spread like this, you can ask the youngest of readers to spot so many things. It could just be how many trees, how many children in uniforms, how many signboards. These are splendid books to use with our youngest readers. And this one, especially, where Venki is eternally delighted. Jyoti Narayan, you say, beautifully illustrated, and the fold out, amazing work by author illustrator Deepa Balsavar. You're right. I absolutely, completely forgot to mention this great, wonderful, big poster that shows you the entire neighborhood in which Nani goes for a walk. It's absolutely frame worthy. And I think, parents, grandparents, teachers, schools, librarians, this book is an absolute must in your collection. It's so affordably priced, at 160 rupees, and published by Pratham, author, illustrator Deepa Balsavar's work. Amama Sari, Archana Natraj, you say, always a hit, absolutely always a hit. Amama Sari, another book that we've recommended time after time in the Buzzaar. It's completely wordless, completely no words, which means there's no right or wrong story. And so if as a grandparent, you're reading it with your grandchild, you can easily let them tell you the whole story. And there is a story about Amama Sari, which has a hole in it. And what does any good Amama do? She decides to reuse the sari in brilliant ways. And you can see each page, brings alive the textures of the sari. And, her little granddaughter is waiting to see how it suddenly becomes a curtain for a window, how it becomes a swing for the child, how it even becomes a plaything for the little cat in their house. Beautiful wordless picture book by Nivedita Subramaniam, published by Tulika and priced at 165 rupees, Amama's Sari. I'm going to go on, right?
Purandar is asking for 10 plus. Do you have anything?
Yes, indeed, we do. Indeed. We have, in fact, not even come to the chapter books at the moment. If I take out the pile and show it to you, you will be, you will have to be here for the rest of the day, I'm assuming, basically, right? So we will, I will just speak about one of this and zip on to the books for the older kids. This is one that, I had read many years ago and somehow just didn't even come back into, memory in recent times. Till I realized it's a beautiful story, set in Andhra Pradesh. And I just love the word that, they have used for for a grandmother in the village, Nainamma. Nainamma or Nanamma, meaning grandmother. And this one, which is originally written in Telugu, so which means this is also a translation under the neem tree, is a beautiful story about a young girl called Kala and her friends who gather under the neem tree every day to hear Nainamma, to wait for Nainamma, who is not particularly Kala's grandmother, but the grandmother for the whole village, tell them stories. And in this story, she is telling her about a well-known folk tale. And I love the names of the characters there of Ookamma and Ookayya, sprinkling it with her own wit, native wit, and homilies and worldview. A.V. Ilango, who has illustrated this book, is a top-notch Indian painter, one of our most respected painters. And the book has such a distinctive, illustrative style, of a fine artist, illustrating a book. When I say fine artist, I mean, Ilango is absolutely formally trained in art. And it's a lovely book about people gathering around, children gathering around a grandmother, the Nainamma, and hearing some wonderful stories. Archana, wow, I hadn't heard about this one. I always wait for you to say that because I'm like, okay, is there a book in our collection that Archana doesn't know about? We've got to find that. We've got to show it to her, basically. Under the Neem Tree, published by Tulika. We would recommend it for 6, 7+ year olds, priced at 150 rupees. Since Divya has, there are a clutch of chapter books that I will recommend very quickly and move on to one or two older ones. I'm going to move into this lovely book, which I think lots of you will enjoy. This is Monkey Trouble and Other Grandfather Stories by Ruskin Bond. And why am I recommending a Ruskin Bond title here? Because this is the first time a Ruskin Bond book has been done in comic format. Superbly illustrated by Priya Kurian, and three lovely stories that involve grandfather. There is Monkey Trouble, where Tutu is is getting up to all kinds of mischief, and grandfather has to. Can grandfather stop him? Does he want to stop him? And it involves Tutu and a monkey, of course. There's Eye of the Eagle, where Jay and his grandfather decide to save an eagle, and there is a special tree in which Rakesh and grandfather take a lovely seed and ensures that it grows into a beautiful tree. It's wonderfully adapted into comic format. Ruskin Bond's Monkey Trouble and Other Grandfather Stories, illustrated by Priya Kurian. This would definitely work for readers 7+, 8+, I would say. And of course, you could easily read. Children love looking at pictures, and the graphic narrative is something that's very, very appealing. So this one, published by Red Turtle, is priced at 295 rupees. Some, absolutely, funny and lovely books in our collection. Again, some chapter books. We don't have too many of these ones, but it makes us chuckle every time we pick up this book. It's called Fizz, Fuss, Boom, Stories from Our Grandparents, written by three splendid writers, Jerry Pinto, Anushka Ravishankar, and Shayoni Basu. The thing is, what do you think the Fizz, Fuss, Boom is all about? I should not say this in public, but I am going to. It is all about farts and stories centric on those farts. Don't mistake me and think it is gross. They are just beautiful, hilarious, and funny stories about grandparents. And Anushka's, in fact, first story itself is so beautifully named Lijimol and Jijimon. Of course, it's set in Kerala, and a funny laughter riot. You may perhaps end up farting because of how much you're laughing. That's what it is. Again, very few copies in our collection, beautifully illustrated by Divya Purandar. Says, hello, okay, I love this. Nobody writes about it. You bet nobody writes about this. But lo and behold, there is one. Archana Natraj saying this one's a riot. It's an utter riot. Children love reading about farts, definitely. Okay. And this one has charming illustrations by Vinayak Varma. We'd say 7+, 8+, again, 9+, depending on the reading level. Stories are super fun. My son was rolling with laughter, especially since I chose this one. That's just lovely. Price at 150 rupees, only limited copies in our collection at the moment. So do check out our website. This one for, again, we would say 8, 9+ year olds, Flying with Grandpa. Such a beautiful story about, a boy who adores his grandfather. The thing is, though, his mother, this one is written by Madhuri Kamath, of course, and set in in the Parsi community, opening our eyes to the way Parsi families live, the Parsi traditions, Parsi customs and cultures. And my God, the Parsis can be batty, right? And that delightful battiness comes through in this book. What I particularly love about it is the fact that the protagonist of the book, Xerxes, he just loves his grandfather and looks up to him and wants to become exactly like his grandfather or his Mama Vaji. Now, the thing is, his mother wants him to be like J.R.D. Tata, of course, okay. But Xerxes does not I mean, J.R.D. Tata is all right and everything is fine, but he wants to become like his Mama Vaji. And the mum thinks that perhaps Mama Vaji is not being such a good influence on Xerxes. Now, she's probably making plans to separate them. How can Xerxes avoid that? How can Xerxes ensure that he's always with his beloved Mama Vaji? Lovely story, again for 8+ year olds, written by Madhuri Kamath, published by Duckbill, and priced at 199 rupees. Madhuri Kamath is watching. How wonderful. Thank you so much for being there at the bazaar. What a fabulous book. This one is fit in so beautifully into our grandpa and grandma bazaar. I know, we always talk about very happy themes, when it comes to grandparents. And I just didn't have the time to, kind of focus on other books. But I'm going to definitely, talk about this one called The Boy with Two Grandfathers by Mini Srinivasan, published by Tulika. The thing is, why does, Amol in the book have two grandfathers? The thing is, two grandfathers who've come to look after him because he has lost his mother recently. The thing is, Mini Srinivasan writes with so much sensitivity, and it's not a tragic when two grandfathers come to look after you, and each grandpa has some custom. So when you read the book, you get a sense that one's a Tamil grandpa and one is a Telugu grandpa, and their customs and what they want to do, for Amol. Beautiful story of two grandfathers, and sometimes how hard it is when the female presence goes away from a child's life. Do the grandfathers fill the mother's shoes? Very sensitively written book. It won the Hindu Young World Good Books Awards, 2 years ago for Mini Srinivasan. We would definitely recommend this one for older kids, Divya. 10 plus is what we'd say. But, I think children 11, 12 can certainly read and enjoy this book. Of course, I like I said, there are two picture books, and I'm just very briefly going to just mention their names. You can look at it on our website, look them up on our website. These are two books, the Ammuchi Poochi, spectacularly illustrated and written book, and Gone Grandmother by Chatura Rao and illustrated by Krishna Balashenoy. Here, the grandchildren, in this there's a grandchild and there are grandchildren in Ammuchi Poochi, written by Sharanya Manivannan and illustrated by Nerina Kanzi. They lose their grandparents. And now that is something that perhaps, God forbid it doesn't happen, but we do experience loss in different ways in life. And these two books sensitively deal with, and, not in a manner that makes you sentimental or weepy, but, the death of a grandparent. You can read up on the books, even, Chatura's Gone Grandmother, which is published by Tulika and priced at 175 rupees. We recommend for 6+ year olds, as we do the Ammuchi Poochi, priced at 199 rupees and published by Penguin. We would recommend it for 7+ year olds, but very sensitive books to, introduce the theme of loss, and sometimes how even loss never takes away the love that you have for people. We will move into a couple of just 2-3 more, quick recommendations, or rather just two quick recommendations, perhaps, especially because some of you have asked for older books. Like I say, impossible to cover everything that's in our collection. Do check out the bazaar, on the website, and look at all the books that we've put out, because a couple of these books are also available in other languages. And what you can do is, if you want specific inputs about it, do WhatsApp us at 99004 95665. We're happy to answer questions about specific books if you want to find out whether they suit your child's or grandchild's reading requirements. I will just, close with 2-3 books more for older kids. This one called The Little Rainmaker by Rupal Rashomani Kevalia is the story of 10-year-old Anushka. It is a story of of an environmental crisis that, that we are facing in the world today. And the thing is, though, the crux of the book for 10-year-old Anushka, who has never felt rain falling on her face or on her head, or experienced the rumble of thunder, or seen a flash of lightning, she absolutely is not able to believe her grandfather's story about a 7-colored arc called a rainbow. And that is, of course, until, Archana, you say you love it. Of course, it's a fabulous book. Until one day, her life is turned upside down to see her grandfather dying. And he has one last wish of wanting to see rain one last time. So Anushka sets off on a journey to literally move the mountains and move the skies to make it rain. It's a fantasy-filled rain-making adventure. As I said, what has to be marveled about these writers is how, they deal with sensitive issues in a manner that is so meaningful to young readers. We would recommend this for 10-plus-year-olds. It's really a story of hope, power, fierce determination, and a need to save our planet from the environmental crisis that we are facing. And of course, the grandfather plays a significant role in Anushka's journey to bring rain for her grandfather. Published by Penguin and priced at 250 rupees. There is, of course, Andalib Wajid. Nalini, each week I get more in awe of your kidlit wealth of knowledge, Vidya. Thank you for sharing your passion with us. Thank you for writing these spectacular books. And this entire collection is always and curated by all of us jointly, each one pitching and putting in their favorite books into our collection. We are so happy that so many of you come to watch us. We really hope that this gets on to being a good resource. Archana Natraj, you say, absolutely agree with Nalini. Thank you so much for this weekly delight. Thank you so much, all of you, for being with us week after week. We would like this to become a great resource on Indian children's books. And that Indian children's books get read more widely because they really deserve to be. The creators, all of you, so many of you watching out there, your books deserve to go places. And that's why we find ways and means to showcase them at Funky Rainbow in as exciting, manners and thematic manners that are possible. This one, Asmara Summer, is a lovely book by the very popular Andalib Wajid, who has multiple books to her credit. Again, it's a story about a smart, sassy young girl called Asmara, a teenager who absolutely, doesn't want her friends from high school or college to know that she has come to live with her grandparents. Her grandparents live on Tannery Road in Bangalore, which is a conservative, not so posh area of the city, filled with, as she says, claustrophobic houses and fashion disasters. Oh my God. Imagine a 15-year-old having to deal with this. She doesn't want her friends to know that she has had to come for, her vacations to spend time with her grandparents. What happens? Does that summer holiday prove to be entertaining or exasperating for Asmara, thanks to her grandparents? Reading it brought alive some fantastic memories of areas in Bangalore that we may have visited in our own college days. And Andalib does such a lovely job of interweaving something about the city and its specific locales, especially in this case, Tannery Road, into the book while telling the story of young Asmara. We would certainly recommend this for 13-plus-year-olds. So Divya, hopefully that question, I have tried to tell you about one or two books that would work for that age group. I have one concluding book But before I conclude, I would like to say a quick round of hellos, because that concluding book is a really special one. And I'd like to say hello to many of you before we sign off. Shashi Prabha, Muttama's classmate and, an absolute Wonder Woman, she says, welcome to the Buzzaar. Simrita Takhtar, a pleasure to see you here again. We were on Zoom not so long ago, and we really hope many of these books will get into the Tide program. Amanpreet Kaur, lovely that you've joined us all the way from Jaipur, and I do hope your library is slowly coming back, with children walking in, to the library. Anu Jolie, what a pleasure to see you at the Buzzaar. We really hope we have introduced you to many books that you may want to share with the children or, with the adults in your life. Balasundaram Nagarajan, a pleasure. Leela VR, Janani Balasundar, Uttara Harikumar, Bhargavi Balasundaram, Harshika Udasi, what a pleasure. We do have Friends Behind Walls in our Buzzaar today, because even in that book, it begins with the Nana Nani, Dada Dadi wanting to go back to Deolali. So congratulations to you, for your brand new book, Friends Behind Walls. From all of us at Funky Rainbow, as I said, more and more books to talk about, so many books, so little time. But congratulations on the book. And I do know that the grandparents set the story rolling in a sense. Sarah Raj, you say you love our collection. How lovely. We do hope you reach it out to the children and adults in your life. Sai Anshu, Smita Nair, Shubh SK, what a pleasure to see you at the Buzzaar. Kamu Shayan, friends old and new that are with us every single week. Sohini Mitra, so many Penguin books in the recommendation. Thank you so much for joining us at the Buzzaar. I do know you have a book voucher that you got from Squibbie, and here's Funky Rainbow's collections on various subjects. various topics. And I do hope you will pick up some for your young son. Ashwangi Bhatt, Asha Nehmaya, all, old friends who have done so much to keep the wheels of our book truck turning, even in these most challenging times. Shubha Venkatramani, Sajita Sunil, Vijay Lakshmi Nagaraj, absolutely a dear friend, Anam Fatima, Dr. Premila Harimohan, Jomi George, all, wonderful friends, old and new, joining us at the Buzzaar. Preeti Ramchandran, Arpita Tyagi. I know so many of you posted comments during Murli's conversation. I'm so glad that you were all here to watch Murli talk about the wonderful work. Santosh Sebastian, due to different time zones and my busy schedule, usually I'm unable to join your live, but thanks much for your recommendations. Fortunately, technology has made it possible to save all these videos, and they are available on the Funky Rainbow YouTube channel. Please do watch and share these recommendations with children and adults in your life. Shivangi Sharma, Jyoti Narayan, such a pleasure. Bookwalis, Shivamurti Tangarsu, Kavita Shivaram, so many of you posting comments during the conversation. So I'm zipping past, the highs and hellos. Anshuman Chatterjee, Yolinda Kosnell, and Jayashri Kuppuswamy. How wonderful that so many of you have joined us at the Grandma Grandpa Buzzaar today. Like I said, please do go to our website, www.funkyrainbow.com. Click on the click on the header that says Buzzaar. It'll take you to a subsection called Grandma Grandpa Buzzaar. All the books that we have recommended and haven't recommended for lack of time are up there. We would be the link is up here. You can simply click the link that's come up on the screen and go right to that collection. We would be delighted for, if you picked up books from our collection, provided they interest you and you feel you can use them with the children and grandchildren in your lives. I'm going to conclude with a book that I would simply, it would be terrible if I didn't pick this book and conclude it, because there's one young lady to whom I owe everything of my love for this book as well. I mean, the author Ranjit Lal is a big favorite at Funky Rainbow, but a big shout out goes to Muttama's daughter Tamanna Kaveri Sen, who has single-handedly inspired us to sell hundreds of copies of this book. And this one is a most charming one called Our Nana Was a Nutcase by author Ranjit Lal. The thing is, I can't tell you, in the real world, when times were okay and Tamanna has come with us to so many school events or public events, I have personally seen her pick out this book and recommend to every single person who comes there, whether they want to read about grandfathers or not, whether the children are of a suitable age or not. Because I even heard her telling one parent who told her that I only have a 3-year-old. She was quick to quip saying, please read the book yourself. So Ranjit Lal, we have to say you have such a big champion in this young girl who's all of 13. And this splendid book by Ranjit Lal, which is the story of a grandfather and his grandchildren. Now, as Ranjit has always done, writing about difficult issues with so much sensitivity, these grandchildren grow up with their grandfather because their parents are extremely busy diplomats. The thing is, slowly and across time, it seems like Nana is becoming forgetful. And yes, Ranjit Lal touches upon the sensitive issue of dementia in the book. And, when things start to become a little difficult, the parents are wondering whether it is time to have Nana go to an institution. The thing is, what do the grandchildren want to do? And such lovely grandchildren. The book is infused with Ranjit Lal's characteristic humor, and it's such a heartwarming and poignant tale of grandchildren and grandparents, and a grandfather coming together, sort of facing life's challenges head on. And believe me, even if I say this, I want to say there are chuckles in virtually every page of the book, simply because of how batty Nana is at some times and how equally nutty his grandchildren are. Published by Rupa Red Turtle and priced at 295 rupees. This wonderful book that we would recommend for 12, 13 plus year olds, Our Nana is a Nutcase by Ranjit Lal, and recommended entirely because of, not that I would have not done it myself, but I would have been hauled up over the coals if I had not, recommended this at this bazaar, because of Tamanna Kaveri Sen and her mother, Muttama Devaya. So Ranjit Lal's Our Nana is a Nutcase, priced at 295 rupees. We are, of course, we are, of course, completely out of time. And I think the next time we're going to suggest, please keep your lunches ready so you can come in front of the computer and eat lunch. But thank you so much for joining us at our Grandma Bazaar. It has given the team at Funky Rainbow, Muttama, Sham, and me immense pleasure, and Bharti and Sujita, who are very busy getting things ready for the next bazaar. I'm afraid our lives are just consumed by, the bazaar. We thank you completely for, being a part of this very special and splendid bazaar. A big thank you also to our guest, Murli Gopal Krishnan, who brought in so much joie de vivre to our bazaar. Grandparents, as we all agree, they are just the best. And you know what, life would never be the same if we all didn't have grandparents. Thank you so much for being here today. And, please do use the weekend to figure out which books suit, your reading requirements. And should they suit your reading requirements, do pick them up from www.funkyrainbow.com. Thank you.